Hey, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome to the Lead Security YouTube channel. My name is Preston Hawker. I'm a licensed private investigator, personal protection specialist, and a veteran in full-time ministry. Not only that, I'm one of the founders of Lead Security. Our mission at Lead Security is simple. It's to help churches create environments or communities that are both welcoming or inviting and secure. The strategies I share here aren't theory. They're not just pulled from the internet. I'm not shooting from the hip. They're based on years of real world experience, working with teams, training teams, working cases, and helping organizations learn what works when it comes to security, but also learning what doesn't work. And I want to tell you, along the way, I've had some really good help. I've had people give me some really good advice that not only shaped me as an investigator or as a protector, but advice that really helped save lives. But I've also heard some really bad advice, the kind of advice that makes me cringe because if it's followed, it could really put people in danger. So today I want to share with you 5 pieces of the worst security advice I've ever been given. Why? Because I want you to know if or when you ever hear this advice, you'll know to run in the other direction and you'll know how to combat those ideologies. Here's the kicker. Some of this might sound harmless, even logical, but if you stick with me, I'll show you why it's not only wrong, I'll show you why it's dangerous. More importantly, I'm going to give you a better path on how to move forward. But before we dive in, let me know in the comments, what's the worst security advice you've ever been given? Put it in the comments now, and let's see if yours makes the list. Now, let's get into this. This one is everywhere. You move into a safe neighborhood or your church is in a quiet part of town and people always say, relax, nothing ever happens here. The truth? That statement usually comes right before something actually does happen. Criminals don't care about your zip code, and emergencies don't care about your population size. I've seen break-ins happen in affluent neighborhoods, and I've watched assaults happen in broad daylight on what would otherwise be known as a quiet street. When we start believing safety is guaranteed because of where we live or where we worship, we lower our guard. And when we lower our guards, we make ourselves easy targets. Remember, preparation isn't about fear. It's about prevention and having a respect for reality. I respect law enforcement. Over the years, I've had close friends who wore the badge. But here's the hard truth. 911 is not an instant shield. Average response times range from 7 to 10 minutes across the US. In more rural areas, it can be much longer than that. Even in a populated area like Virginia Beach, where I live, response times can be extended. Not that long ago, we had a potential active shooter on our property, and it took the police more than 45 minutes to respond to our 911 call. Luckily, we had capable people, so we could manage the issue on our own, and nobody had to get hurt, but that could have been an absolute catastrophic incident. When we look back at the average of 7-10 minute response times, we have to look at the average time for most violent incidents, which equates to about 3 minutes. So what does that mean? That means what happens in those first few moments is all up to you or your team. Whether it's seeking cover, administering first aid, or executing your church's emergency plan, those minutes belong to you. Calling 911 is essential, but it can never be your only plan. On the surface, this one sounds appealing. Don't draw attention, just be quiet, stay in place, trouble is going to pass you by. But that's not how predators think. Predators hunt based on opportunity. They look for distraction, they look for isolation, and they look for people who are unaware. One person can walk through a parking lot and get ignored. Another can walk through that exact same parking lot and get followed. The difference isn't how well they blend in. It's how much awareness they project. So how does this concept apply to church security? Well, if your church has a safety or security team, you need to be visible. That doesn't mean that everybody needs to be outfitted like it's 2005 and your next stop is Baghdad. But what it does mean is you might need to have a lanyard, or you might need a shirt that clearly identifies your team. Just remember this: blending in is often a passive act, but security is rarely done from a passive stance. I hear this one from people all the time, and it usually has at least a little bit of ego behind it. But when crisis hits, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your preparation. If the training or preparation for your team is a few YouTube tutorials or maybe a karate class that you did in middle school, you're not prepared. I've watched people freeze in real emergencies because adrenaline wiped out their fine motor skills and it wiped out their ability to think clearly. We have to remember most emergencies that we're going to have to manage in the church setting, they're all going to be medical emergencies or minor verbal altercations. And here's something that a lot of you aren't going to like. If you're not training with regularity, you're feigning competence. And confidence without competence is a liability. That's why drills, repetition, and ongoing training matter. If you haven't practiced it, you don't have a plan. You have a fantasy. This one might be the most dangerous. Some people think as long as I've got a gun, I'm good. Listen, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I carry a firearm daily, and I have a firearm for almost every occasion. I'm a fan of people carrying concealed. I'm even a fan of people concealing on church properties. But here's the reality: a firearm is not a magic wand. Owning the tool isn't enough. Mastering the tool and mastering the mindset behind it, that is what saves lives. If you carry, fantastic. But train, drill, and most importantly, make sure you know when not to shoot as much as you know when to shoot. Take some time to learn de-escalation strategies. Practice your soft skills as often, at least as often, as you practice your hard ones. Read books like The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker or Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Develop the ability to recognize danger early and, when possible, develop the ability to talk your way out of it and walk away. So there you have it. The 5 worst pieces of advice I've ever been given when it comes to security, specifically church security. They might sound harmless on the surface, but if you build your safety strategy on them, you're building on sand. The smarter way is to build on truth. The truth that emergencies never schedule appointments, that seconds matter, and that awareness, training, and preparation are what separate victims from survivors. So here's my challenge. Don't let bad advice shape the way you protect your people. Trade in fantasy for policy. Trade in wishful thinking for actual real life preparation. If this video opened your eyes, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our content. And share this video with somebody in your church, maybe in leadership or somebody that's on your security team. Because the stronger we are together, the safer we get to become. Before we go, remember this: awareness sharpens your mind, training shapes your actions, and preparation builds communities where safety and peace can thrive. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.